morning and welcome to Rising. We have a perfectly adequate show for you today, and we're going to get right to it. Take it away, Briahna.
All right. Well, the news nobody can ignore is that Senator Mitch McConnell had another one of those glitches at the podium. Now, he did not respond to repeated questions during another alarming freezing episode caught on camera, marking the second time in just over a month he suffered such an episode. Let's take a look.
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's right.
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator. Penny.
Yep. Okay.
A spokesperson for the 81-year-old Senate Minority Leader told CNN's Manu Raju, quote, Leader McConnell felt momentarily lightheaded and paused during his press conference today. The spokesperson added that McConnell feels fine.
President Biden briefly addressed the incident yesterday. Take a look at that.
By the way, I just heard literally coming out, and Mitch is a friend, as you know, not a joke. We always, I know people don't believe that's the case, but we have disagreements politically, but he's a good friend, and so I'm going to try to get in touch with him later this afternoon. I don't know enough to know.
Do you think he's
Thank
fit
you.
to serve and should run for the election?
Are you running?
I'm not sure.
Okay, all right.
Now, it's pretty ironic that Mitch McConnell had that moment while he was being asked if he plans to run again for another term.
Right. When is he up?
I mean, the answer to that question should be self-evident based on the last time this happened. And the fact that he was unable to answer that question because of some obviously health-related glitch. This is not that he paused. It's not that he lost his train of thought. You know, there, but for the grace of God, go I on all of that. We all have our senior moments. But this seems to be more than that.
Yeah.
I saw some people pointing out
he'll be up again.
That if this has not happened twice on camera, what is the likelihood that this happens with some frequency off camera? And we're just getting a glimpse into what seems to be a steady state for him at this point.
So obviously he cannot run for re-election in 2026. If he were to resign before that, Kentucky has a Democratic governor, so that's just not going to happen. It's the same, you know,
it's the same
raw political
Feinstein
calculus
situation. You got to keep him in.
He's not going to retire. He needs, but he can retire as Senate minority leader, as head of the Republican Party in the Senate, which is something that needs to happen. I mean, how does the Republican Party make its case against these elderly Democrats running our government, including Joe Biden, but also Feinstein, the health problems in general that, you know, John Fetterman, despite not being of advanced age, includes him in that category when this is the Republican Senate minority leader. It's not, I don't want to be cruel about it. It's not. But there's just no way he can continue to serve in a leadership position unless this is, I mean, obviously we need to know more if this is like his medication is out of whack or something, and it can be fixed and then he'll be cogent. But that's going to be hard to believe, and it would be on him and his team to demonstrate that that's the case.
From an optics perspective, it's a really bad look for Republicans who are understandably trying to lean into the broadly felt perception that Biden is too old to run. When you cut from the Mitch McConnell clip to Joe Biden talking about the Mitch McConnell clip, Joe Biden looks downright spry.
Yes, that's a good point.
So I don't know. I understand that there's other concerns beyond the general election prospects here, but this does seem like a situation that needs to get under control. If it means moving him to the basement, a la Joe Biden in 2020, getting him out of the public sphere. But this, at a certain point, it borders on cruelty to have him out in front of the public having these moments.
And Mitch McConnell is, there's no way to overstate how important he is to the Republican to the project of electing Republicans. He controls the purse strings for so much money. He gets to choose which candidates have access to his war chest. So to have that guy not, it's stressful, it's strenuous to not have someone who is fully psychologically, emotionally, physically capable of doing an extremely important and difficult, demanding job is just the party crippling itself. Yeah. Utterly crippling itself.
Yeah. I saw some people, obviously, look, there are some people who make kind of more mean-spirited remarks about this. I found this to be just really, it's almost difficult to watch. But I did see some leftists making, I think, a better point out of all of this. Nina Turner tweeted reminding people that Mitch McConnell has access to world-class health care provided by the government, while many of his constituents don't due to policies he's championed and blocked. If you're going to try to politicize a moment like this, I do think that's the way to do it. Make the case that people like him who are benefiting enormously from government health care have obstructed those same benefits for the general public, and that him moving on could also clear space for politicians who might actually be more geared toward fighting for the people instead of raking in campaign donations to a lot the way that you've described and being beholden to various
health care because he works for the government.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, people have access to health care through their job. That's not such a. I don't see the hypocrisy of that. He has health care because that's
it's not
his
hypocrisy.
job, is that he works
it's that
for the government.
we've designed a society the way that we want to design society.
Well,
and
I don't know that he designed employer-based healthcare, but it's a bad system that needs reform. I agree with that.
Okay. Well, yesterday, Jake Tapper pressed White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre about recent polling showing 3 in 4 Americans believe President Biden is too old for 4 more years. Let's watch that.
But I'm talking about his age and his stamina and his ability to do the job, and you're talking about the record. And I understand why you'd rather talk about the record, but I'm talking about what Americans see when they turn on the TV and they see, Joe Biden's been in politics literally since before you were born, and he's
let's talk,
aged.
Let's talk about this.
As we all do.
Let's talk about this, and you all talked about this back when we were marking the 1-year anniversary, right, of the war in Ukraine, the unprovoked war by Russia. What did the president do? He went to Kyiv. And he was there with the alarms blaring in the back. And people were so impressed that he was able to be there and look strong and represent the American people.
Immediately when we went to that clip, you could tell from her body language that she was very defensive. And all of those little yep quips throughout were also seem to be an indicator that she has gotten this question a lot. She's uncomfortable answering this question, that it's a tough issue, that it's getting to folks in the Biden White House, that age is such an issue. And I think part of why it's probably bristling to her and others in the White House is that it's not just some Republican attack. It's a view that is shared by the bulk of Democratic Party voters. Everyone thinks that Joe Biden is too old to run. And it's not just too old, I would point out. It's that he seems to be not fit enough, that his age is coming in between him and his ability to do the job in a way that certain other old candidates, including Donald Trump, don't seem to be having that exact same problem. They're going to have to deal with this in a way that is less defensive and that assures people that he's up for the job, as opposed to saying, well, he was standing strong in Ukraine. He was able to stand up. He was able to fly to another country and stand on his own 2 feet for 4 hours. Therefore, you shouldn't have any concerns about his cognitive wellness.
Frankly, it's going to be a gift to Joe Biden's reelection to have a top Republican functioning at the level that Mitch McConnell appears to be functioning. It will blunt some of that criticism, I would predict, which is why we can't have it. Sorry, we can't have it.
So what are you recommending? Because to your point,
they need to have him retire as minority leader. They can't have him retire from the Senate because they can't. I mean, let's just be real with ourselves. Yeah, it's not going to happen. But there are other senators who want the job. John Thune is one. I think Rick Scott might be one. There's a number of Republicans who are interested in that position. It's a transition that's going to have to happen, and it might as well happen. The sooner the better for not allowing one of the best arguments against reelecting Joe Biden from the Republican standpoint, for a pitch that, as you're noting, is resonating with people of all political stripes, is that he's just too old for this job. But then it becomes, well, they're all too old for this job, which is the case, but it's more visible when you have someone like Speaker McConnell. And I don't say that with any malice. It's the reality that people need to retire. People need to retire.
Yeah, there is an argument that we need to reform the rules that make it so that there's such political consequences for someone getting sick and ailing. I mean, we could live in a society that said, okay, like I understand the political reality and wanting to get your political edge and advantage, but let's let Feinstein stand down and actually allow the Democrats to replace her in the Judiciary Committee. Let's let Mitch McConnell take the are we really in a place where we think that our government is served by people staying in despite their significant health problems that are obviously interfering with their ability to govern?
I mean, this is why something like term limits are something I think we both like, at least in an abstract sense. In the reality of a political system where power is so entrenched by incumbents in both parties, and the democratic process has been somewhat short-circuited by the primary process and redistricting and everything we have going on, where it's not the case that you can just toss someone when they're no longer fit to do the job in like a non-partisan or political sense, then term limits are kind of an important thing.
Yeah.
Well, we will continue to update you on Mitch McConnell's health, and we'll have more Rising right after this.